What is the MEATRIX? The MEATRIX is a certain aspect of the matrix that is so deeply ingrained into humanity and into the matrix that it needs its own separate name. And the reason that it needs its own separate name is because even those who are conscious enough to fully see the matrix tend to have this one little hole that they do not see and that they are actually engulfed in the deception by, and that is the MEATRIX. So if you guys want to know what the MEATRIX is and why, as the title states, the MEATRIX is the number one enemy of humanity by far at large, and why that is the case, watch this video. This is a recording from the previous Evolve Method Tribe group call. Joe is presenting the topic. I make a lot of points. We have some discussion amongst the tribe overall. If you guys are interested in joining the tribe, link down in the description below. Otherwise, comment what you think. If you agree with the things we talk about in this video, if you disagree, I'd love the discussion. Enjoy the video. Peace.
All right, so the MEATRIX. Like I said, we live in a world, I'm going to show the stats in a second, with some pretty crazy stats on what goes on behind closed doors, behind closed walls, through ignorance, and it happens to almost the entire world. There's a small sect of people who are aware of this MEATRIX, or fully aware of it, and have been able to navigate it and escape it. And I call this thing the MEATRIX. Now, MEATRIX needs to be defined so we know what it is. MEATRIX is a system of cultural, economic, psychological, and spiritual forces that normalize the breeding, exploitation, and killing of innocent sentient beings, turning them from individuals to products, leading one to consume the remains while disconnecting from the harm it causes to all involved. Right? So it's not just one thing. It's not just the government, and I'm going to explain all the forces at play. But there are forces on many, many levels, leading a person to basically separate from the act itself, because the closer you get to the act, the less likely you are to partake in it, right? The closer you get to it physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that is the MEATRIX. The acts, what are the acts themselves? The acts include, but are not limited to, enslavement, mutilation, forced impregnation, separations of mothers and offspring, confinement, exploitation, murder, consumption of the victims' bodies and secretions, and not to mention that unless you're a dairy cow whose his life is carried on so she can continue to have babies and produce milk, then these are all happening to babies, to baby animals, right? And so we do this to babies, the most innocent of animals too, which is why we're able to confine them and do the horrible things without them fighting back. So the human soul will not willingly commit such acts were they not normalized, concealed, and justified by the MEATRIX. The effects of the MEATRIX. So these are some of the stats of what the MEATRIX is doing to all life on this planet. 3 to 6 billion animals lose their lives for food every day, including some 200 million land animals. Approximately 80% of agricultural land is used for livestock, returning under 20% of humanity's calories. Vast environmental degradation results from existence, including about 80% of the Amazon destruction is due to cattle ranching, just cattle itself. Human health is negatively impacted, and compassion is selectively applied and morally compartmentalized. In addition, violence is normalized behind convenience and momentary pleasure. So it affects things at all levels, right? A lot of these are huge stats. These are statistical versus these are more abstract, but they are all massively affecting our planet, right? And the reason it's also a MEATRIX is because we don't want to talk about this unless you are in this tribe or are amongst a group of people who, is out of the MEATRIX. You don't talk about this stuff. You don't talk about the fact that 3 to 6 billion animals lose their lives for food every single day, or or the actual environmental damage. We're so used to talking about how straws are destroying the ocean. Meanwhile, the straws are an infinitely small fraction of it, right? So it's all because of the MEATRIX. So the forces here, there's six. There's not just three. So this is slide number one. How does the MEATRIX actually allow a human being to breed, exploit, and kill any innocent sentient beings and consume the result every day, most times 3 times a day? So physical, first and foremost. The body gets physically hooked on the taste of flesh and on the adrenaline flooding the animal's blood at its death. The proof of this comes when you stops. Withdrawal set in, and once they pass, craving for flesh is gone, right? when you ask people about veganism, a lot of them will say, I could never do it, right? I could never go vegan, right? Meanwhile, pretty much all of us are sitting here now looking back thinking, I could never go back to eating meat, right? I don't desire the flesh at all, right? The reason people say I could never go vegan is because they're operating at an addict's mind. An addict's mind is specifically designed to create all the narrations possible to make sure its addiction doesn't get removed, right? You'll see people like showing video, I'll see on Instagram showing videos of like baby animals being slaughtered and brutally tortured, and there'll be people in the comments, but I love meat, right? Like our brains will create the most illogical, unjustifiable reasons to protect its addiction, right? Now, after the addiction's gone, which some people it's right away, a couple people it's a couple weeks. I rarely talk to anyone who's long-term vegan who is like, yeah, I really want to go back. I really crave the flesh, right? In fact, this is going to be the biggest reason people go back. But next one we have, and as far as animals blood of flooding the animals blood of death, the funny thing is you can fact check the same system. So there, conspiracy theory, that with the Epstein files, and it's not even a theory anymore, it's basically a fact, is that there were people who would basically harvest and consume the fearful, suffering blood of innocent children because it got them high and made themselves more youthful. Right now, this same system is involved in animals. When there's adrenaline in the system, when there's and fear, adrenaline is released in the system, causing the same concoction of neurochemicals that give you the same effect as human blood does. Right now, if you look up, does adrenochrome do anything? It'll say no. It'll say no for humans and for animals. Yet there's people clearly doing this ritually to humans. And it makes perfect sense, which is why we are physically addicted to this. Because it's like when you try a vegan burger, it's not much, it doesn't taste worse than a flesh burger, right? It doesn't. But there is less adrenochrome. There's less feeling of that flesh addiction, which is why people feel like it's hard to give up. Next is going to be cognitive. One of the most uncomfortable feelings there is cognitive dissonance, which is actions that do not align with your values. Nearly everyone is against animal abuse, yet pays for it, right? The deeper you look, the more the dissonance grows, so people refuse to look at all. This one is huge. This is why it's so important to understand the matrix is because this is what we're working with here. Like the biggest thing is this cognitive level of uh, a defense, a wall up from facing the fact that actions don't align with values. And this is why a big reason why people dislike vegans is because they are a stark representation of that. Because in order to do something that wouldn't align with your values, killing animals because we like the way they taste, we have to create these excuses. We need it, right? It's natural. Other animals do it, right? Or just completely disconnect ourselves from the process and not even think about it at all. Next is going to be social. Around 97% of people are in the matrix, right? Find the courage to leave. You're suddenly among a society threatened by your existence, which answers with pressure and shame. This 97 feels very, very comfortable being at 97, right? This is a similar statistic when slavery existed in America, right? The 97% majority of people were not were not abolitionists, right? And so all the other 97 felt extremely comfortable doing horrible acts without even confronting it. And so when you have this strong set of people who are facing all of these, who are pushing away all of these things, staying in the matrix, when people start to escape the matrix and just their existence shows them that, makes it harder to stay in the matrix, even though the matrix is it's so consuming and it wants you to be in it so bad. There is going to be ramifications for the people outside of the matrix. Now, the biggest reason I see people go back to eating meat, you'll see a lot of people be like, oh, I tried everything and I just needed it for health. And then you ask them, what do you think you were missing nutritionally? And they won't be able to answer. No one will ever say, I was socially pressured. But I see time and time again when I ask people and talk to people about it. But yeah, it always comes out of just, people in my environment. It was just normal around me and I fell back into it. It's going to be because people, when you're, like I said, when you're vegan, when Mike was vegan at the dinner table, around all of our family before we went vegan, he was a billboard of our ignorance, right? And a billboard of what we could be doing, but we weren't doing. And so we all disliked that aspect of him, right? We hated it. We wanted to go back. The longer he was doing it, the more he was proving us wrong, the more we disliked him. And if Mike wasn't strong, he would have felt that pressure and he would have crumbled and felt negative about it and maybe not spoke up about it, maybe even started eating meat again, right? And so it's important that we realize this social pressure. It's not these people actually trying to convince us and their souls trying to convince us. It's the matrix and the subconscious mind trying to get us back to flesh eating. So that's a huge aspect of the matrix. Next is going to be governmental. The law guards the machine. You can look up ag-gag laws. They are literally a law that violate the First Amendment and criminalize filming and journaling and doing journaling inside animal agriculture in several states, right? It's like specifically with animal agriculture to prevent the stuff from getting out. And it's ridiculous. Like you can do your own research on it, but it's absolutely ridiculous, and it leads people to go to jail. You have people who free animals, who rescue animals, who are literally on the level of terrorists without any violence, using no violence, who are classified as terrorists. And so the government does not want the truth to get out. Mike said when he went to watch Dominion, he had to sign in to his account. Make sure you're 18 plus. Make sure there's ramifications before you watch this. You watch the truth. There's ramifications before you watch how the food gets to your plate. And so I never saw any of this stuff until, I went out of my way to watch it, and I still had all these forces stopping me from watching it. In addition, governmental laws criminalizing the exposing of the matrix. Next, you have the subsidies, flesh over produce by roughly 100 to 1, keeping meat cheap and fruits high. I mean, this is just like if you just look at the subsidies, ridiculously in favor of meat, despite the fact that meat is doing all of this to the environment, that it's financially unsustainable, right? A huge part of the governmental aspect too is it's a huge moneymaker. All right, the biggest disease and the biggest killer in the U.S. is cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease is directly and majorly tied to animal consumption, saturated fat consumption, cholesterol, etc. It's also the biggest moneymaker for them. And so if they can be pumping people with these uh, the flesh, then they'll have people continually to be sick and rely on them. But it's more than just the money as far as the forces at play. The largest forces at play are spiritual. The spiritual weight of supporting and consuming violence and death is the strongest force of all. It keeps the soul from ever embodying the golden rule. When I went vegan, I literally, once I accepted it, I was like, wow, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna try this. I'm not gonna do this to animals. I literally felt a spirit of all of these things, but specifically spiritual, leave my body, right? And I felt a weight lifted off me. And a lot of people recognize this weight lifted off them, whether it's an actual entity or just the lightness feeling of being plant-based. But the spiritual weight, everyone feels leaves themselves, right? And Buddhism literally has a word. I was doing research on Buddhism and meat consumption. They literally have a word for this demon of flesh consumption. Um, and this one goes deep. You could do a whole I could do a whole presentation on this, but pretty much every and explain on the next slide. Every religion comes to this conclusion somewhere or another. I haven't looked into Islam actually, but Eastern religions heavily tie the food we eat with the spiritual effects. The Vedic system has like three tiers of like charging, neutral, and then basically putting you in the lower realm. And meats and dairies are all in that, and that's a similar thing amongst Taoism, Vedic culture. Jainism is strictly vegetarian. Like that is like one of the biggest aspects of Jainism. So that's spiritual.
Yeah,
Cultural is
Christianity too.
yeah. I mean,
The was corrupted and the message was changed. But originally Christianity had the same message as well.
for sure. Yeah, you guys,
So,
if you watch that podcast in my did you finish that one, Mike?
no, I saw like a little over an hour, but Joey posted it in the school. You guys gotta watch that. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
mind blowing.
All 3 hours is mind blowing, and he continually has the Holy Spirit speaking through him and just exposing this shit with scripture, not just like conspiracy theory. He's using
Or opinion
scripture. Yeah, he's using
and proof,
scripture.
constant proof and historical evidence and text and documents the entire time.
Constant.
Logic.
It's insane. Last one is gonna be cultural. Cultural propaganda paints the outside the matrix as weakness. Soy boy, vegans are weak. Real men eat meat. Stops people from even entertaining escape. This was me. I never because of culture, I never even entertained veganism. Never entered my mind. Culture was had so planted in my mind that it was just not for a masculine, strong, weightlifting man. Right. So you guys have all seen that, felt that. Collectively, these forces are the matrix, holding the soul through ignorance and programming, right? As you can see, there are many forces at play, which is why, depending on how long you've been vegan or who you talk to and, talk to about it, you can see it's not as simple as we don't need to be doing this to innocent animals, so we shouldn't, right? It's not as simple as that, even though it is as simple as that because of all of these forces. Now, I'm going to open it for discussion real quick and ask you and let you guys s say what you think is the strongest force of these all, which I was actually thinking about. I said spiritual here, which is a strong one, but I was thinking about it and I think that it's not as easy to decide as I thought. So if someone wants to give or one that you think, hey, maybe this might be the strongest or close to that and why?
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Fritz.
It would most likely for me, for my understanding of my personal experience, will be culture,
Hmm.
because there's certain foods that are associated with certain events. Like, example, I'm Haitian, uh, and there's a soup every year on New Year's Day to celebrate independence from the island, and it's called soup jouamou or soup.
Hmm.
It's a freedom soup,
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
has all the stuff that all the slave masters didn't allow the slaves to eat, which was meat, pumpkin soup, potatoes, all these different things. But the most focus was the chicken and the beef, where they
yeah,
add extra beef, all these different cuts of meat into it. And that was like culture. It's like, oh, that's normal. That's our freedom. We get to eat, what the slave masters didn't allow us. So the chicken, the beef, all, goats and all this stuff is added to the soup. And for me, I always like, oh, that's normal. That's just part of my culture. And now being, on a different path, being, fully vegan now, I look at it and I go, it's not necessary. It's like there was vegetables that the slaves actually and Native Americans provided for us. All these
yeah.
different things that are great. And now for the this year, I'm gonna make a vegan version of it with tofu,
It's
and
literally,
I'm gonna use bean curds. I'm gonna use all the root vegetables that we have from native from Haiti. I'm going to use even like impossible beef just to give, for my mom that sensation of beef. Like my mom now does not eat any meat. She'll have chicken once in a while, but she prefers the vegan version of meat now. She never ate meat before I
yeah,
became vegan. Now she doesn't eat meat at all.
that's
So
amazing.
she'll have her cheese, but she doesn't digest it well. She doesn't drink milk. She drinks my oatmeal with me. So it's an understanding that you can change and it's not necessary. Cultures can change and adapt. You respect the culture, but you can change the attitude of the culture. So
For
that's where I
sure.
stand.
For sure. I mean, the culture of the elites is to eat babies, right? And it's like it doesn't just because it's like the higher you go in material success doesn't mean the route you want to take, right? It's basically what they're doing is they're going deeper into the materialism, deeper into the sin, and so that people use that like the kings ate the flesh, and it's like. all right, the kings of our day and age eat the flesh too, but it's just they go even deeper in the evil. And so, it's we're on a spiritual journey. We're on a spiritual path. I mean, I don't even have to convince you guys of this, of the not eating flesh, but we're on a spiritual path here, right? Where real freedom is attained through the spirit and fulfillment and inner confidence, not external materialism.
And the gladiators didn't eat the flesh. So the people whose entire livelihood and lives depended on and were given everything they needed to be strong because they were the source of entertainment and distraction for the masses. They didn't eat meat. Right. So the kings who they don't have to do anything besides tell people what to do and sit around and enjoy pleasure, ate meat. They didn't eat meat because it made them strong. Right. So the gladiators at the time of Rome, they were mostly completely vegetarian. They did not eat meat because in their life survival depended on their performance, physically, mentally, etc. So that is a complete, like Joe said, that is a complete invalid argument to say that we should
Yeah.
eat meat because things ate it.
And by using that logic, you're a cannibal then, if you're going to use the logic of our modern day and age, because, like I
Yeah.
said, we're eating babies. Thank you, Fritz. Anyone else want to break one of these down? The one that they think that is one of the most influential?
Yeah, I'll
What was
go.
yours for you?
I was gonna say social. It'd be kind of like
Yeah,
kind of
social is
cultural, but
big.
more social. Social because everybody's all like, oh well, especially you know, say July 4th. Oh, everybody's gotta have burgers and hot dogs and all this stuff. When you don't eat it, you can have a vegan version of it and be the same way. So and people are just so brainwashed into saying, oh, I gotta have this to survive. You don't.
For sure. And it's the social one is like all when you're out of the matrix, you're freed from the physical, you're freed from the cognitive, you're free from the governmental, and besides the fact that vegetables are a little more expensive, you're free from the spiritual, free from the cultural conditioning, but you still live in the matrix with everyone else. Like you're the social, you're out of the matrix, but you're living in a world where you're living in the matrix, but out of it mentally and spiritually, right? And so you're living amongst the matrix, and so that's the one that continue that will pull you back in. Is the social. I mean, I have no doubt any of you guys will, especially you have our community. You are building confidence from within, and this comes from lack of confidence. It comes from spiritual weakness, essentially. And I don't doubt people do have situations where everyone around them is, trying to get them to come back in, but yeah, this is one that we now, this is the only thing we really deal with. We're freed from all the other rest of the stuff. And yeah, good one, Eric.
Okay, boys. I got one.
Go ahead, Beckham.
Um, 2 days ago, I had a conversation with someone who's like probably about a quarter Indigenous Australian, and but so I told him, yeah, well, we are omnivores, but now day and age we have the choice to either eat the animal that we can eat, but also inflict harm and that we don't want to, or get the nutrients and energy from plants. And so I was just trying to make him understand that. But for me, a lot of people, it's more cultural, because they fall back on what they've been told by their grandfathers, their grandmothers, in the strong Indigenous culture here in Australia, where they ate a lot of meat growing up, in the outback and stuff like that. And then he just believed it was okay to do it, because it's within the stars of what the Indigenous people did uh, back in the day. And I said, yeah, because it's cultural. It doesn't mean whatever your father's grandfathers did doesn't mean it's right. It's just they had to do that to survive, didn't they? And now we're not in a survival situation. We don't have to inflict harm on these animals. And then so I explained all that. And then he kind of explained about, um, he said that the mother cows aren't raped, or like that they're not raped to produce milk and stuff like that. I said, well, how do you think they produce millions of cows, you know, and babies and milks so quickly. It's because they're forced to be impregnated and stuff like that. And then I mentioned that to him as well. So, and then also another thing he talked about is the deer. He mentioned that his indigenous culture prefer to not kill a deer when they're young or when they're a teenager. They prefer to kill it when it's all grown up and adult. It's I'm not sure why, but they prefer to do that. And he said if they saw it outside of his house, he'll they'll throw a spear at it and kill it, and it'll be harmless, or like it's okay to do that. And I said, is spearing an animal okay? Do you think that animal feels any pain, or do you think you know it's all good? Because to me, it sounds like if I was throwing a spear at you, you'd go to the ground, you'd suffocate, etc. And he tried to deny that a few times. Yeah, so for me, it wasn't hard to combat the cultural belief that he thinks. It's just um, he, when it comes to culture, I think they just don't want to be separated from where they grew up and their cultural beliefs, that they're so connected. I think it's stronger than governmental and spiritual. Um, just because I think governmental, there's so much good and bad. You can easily go away from the government. Um, Spiritual, I think a lot of people are not connected spiritually, so they don't um, understand it at first. And then veganism actually got me to be bit more spiritual, um, and understand, you know, being myself within and spiritually. And then physical is a big one, but I won't go into that. But yeah, for me, it was cultural. Um, so there was a pretty interesting conversation, but he didn't want to deny it, and he was talking about protein, and he thought it was like the best way to get the much amount of protein. He said, although reaching up to the stars, I was like, mate, there's plenty plants that have protein and etc. And we can provide more plants if we stop the animal. So, so that's what I had a couple nights ago. So it's an interesting conversation. So for me, it will be cultural for sure.
Yeah, the cultural the funny thing is like the deeper you go into this, the more you realize how much of a psyop it is. It's like we have no predatory instinct, right? We from birth we never have we have the exact opposite of a predatory instinct. We have no desire to bite into an animal, to open it up there and consume its raw flesh, right? We have to coat it with cooking and seasoning and all these things, and we have to literally people are like when they hunt, yeah, it hurts the heart and soul, but we do it anyways. It's like it hurts your heart and soul because you don't want to kill the animal. We have no natural desire, especially as a child.
Yeah,
And then when you look at that not only that, when you look at our biology, we're frugivores, right? We're frugivores, and monkeys,
yeah,
our closest ancestors, will once in a while kill a rodent or small animal
yeah,
out of scarcity, opportunistic.
It's actually not scarcity. It's actually not scarcity. They really only hunt when they have an extreme abundance of fruit because they're overflowing with energy, and they say, I have so much energy. They like the taste of flesh because they probably had it before, because they've
Mm,
had periods of abundance where they then
mm,
say, oh,
yeah,
like I want to dominate this monkey. So then I've watched a lot of I've been obsessed with chimps. I watch documentaries on chimps. And they will only hunt then. So when they're in food scarcity, they have a low energy. How much more energy does it take to chase something around that's fast that doesn't want to die? And even monkeys themselves are not like great hunters. Right? They're like us. They have hand. They're better than
they're
us because
better
they have
than us, yeah.
way better than us. But what they do when they have low energy is they just look around, slowly conserve the energy and scavenge for
yeah,
fruit. They look for fruit.
yeah,
When there's so much fruit and they have tons of abundance, then for partly for fun, because they're just monkeys, they're not like higher conscious humans. And for the taste of the flesh, then they go and use the extra energy to get to hunt. But it's not scarcity. They never hunt in scarcity, monkeys.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
gather. And even when it comes to primal humans, we think, oh, we were hunter gatherers. Not really. We were by far mainly gatherers because our instincts and even what we have physically, like I don't know how I would kill an antelope or a deer if it was like trapped in this room with me. I don't know how I would kill it
Yeah.
because I know like jujitsu. Maybe I could like get around its neck and like wrap my legs around it, like rear naked choke it to death. All right, but I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do that in the wild while it's running. I just wouldn't
Not
be
even
able to do it.
close.
So, we had to hack nature by creating weapons to be able to do that. But there was a time where humans existed without weapons. We didn't have weapons. We were just going around eating fruit. We're designed to eat fruit.
Yeah.
Grabby, grabby, grabby. Tricolor eyes designed to pick out fruit. We look at an animal. We never feel the instinct, like Joe said, to run up
Yeah.
to it. Like carnivores, they feel like instinctually, like, oh, I want to just go rip that thing's throat out instinctively. We don't.
At
Yeah.
all.
So
And
at all.
fruit is the only thing on the planet besides some vegetables that naturally taste good. Literally without anything doing it to it, you grab it off the
Oh
tree
yeah.
and it tastes delicious, right? Don't even have to
Yeah.
cook it. Don't even have to cook it. And so like what he said there as far as like, we're on it's not like, oh, we have to go against our nature and biology and be vegan in 2026. It's no, we're returning to our original biology. Um, Cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to mention one before I move on?
Yeah, I'll say real quick.
Go ahead.
What I think. I think this is the objective answer, honestly, is that it's a physical addiction. Because what I've seen is I've seen people who they're around, like people in my life who are around people, their friends. I have people in my life who the majority of their friends are actually vegan. I have a friend group where like actually more of us are vegan. People that they talk to and that they see in their life are vegan. So the social's not there. uh the cognitive is one thing, but the thing about cognitive dissonance is that cognitive dissonance isn't making you stay vegan. It's like what you have to do to stay. I mean, not it's not making you eat meat. It's what you have to do to eat meat. It's an
Right.
uncomfortable. So like that's not like forcing you to stay it.
It's
Um,
stopping you from look. It's stopping you from looking though, looking for truth.
yeah, for sure. The government, people don't care about the law. That one's not as much. It's literally a physical addiction. What do addictions do? They make you do things that you don't actually want to do. They can make you can be so addicted to something that you do something that you know is wrong, that you know hurts someone, that you know is bad for you, and you're going to do it anyway. I've shown people Dominion where they literally watch it, they agree that it's demonic. They're upset while they're watching it. They've cried while watching it. And even afterwards, the cognitive dissonance is still that they don't have any answer. They just say, I,
I love
I don't,
meat.
I can't talk about it. They don't even say that. It's like, can we stop talking about this? And they're a logical person. And then a logical, good person, a good human with a good heart. And I just see like their eyes kind of glaze over. I literally see like an actual like the demon of flesh consumption, like glazing over in control. Like it's what they
So
feel the demon. It's crazy. And the reason is because it's an addiction and it's addiction to the flesh and the adrenochrome that's in the flesh. Just like addictions can make anyone do things. People could kill someone for an addiction. And if they
yeah,
weren't addicted, they would never do anything immoral, right?
and
So
it's
I that is the root of it. That the
that
physical addiction is the root.
it is, but like you said there, you see the demon of flesh consumption come out. So that's why I wouldn't even say it's it's a combat. The funny thing about the Matrix is it's such a crazy combination of all these things. Like he's explained the demon of flesh consumption because it's absolutely a spiritual weight. People wouldn't kill each other and wouldn't slaughter innocent animals or wouldn't as much for tobacco, right? I mean, some people still definitely would, but it's specifically to consume the dead corpse and to be causing this and consuming the dead corpse when we have no instinct and we like we all love animals and see the innocence is this that's where like the spiritual comes in and
The
like
spiritual and physical addiction.
and physical, yeah, it's all a concoction and the cultural um and the social pressure. Like that was I before I went vegan, I was like, God damn, I'm gonna have to tell my friends I'm a vegan. Fuck. Right. And now it's like, you guys know my account. It's like I wear it as like I wear it as a badge of honor, a badge of fucking honor because I've escaped this shit. Like when you see it, you escape it. And the more I've looked into it, the more I realized I'm living the fucking truth so crystal clear. And basically, the rest of the world is either in ignorance or selective, chosen, deep immorality, right? One
And
or the other.
the thing is too is that um I think that when people say like I don't know how vegans do it, I don't know how I could go vegan. I think what they're thinking about is giving up the taste of meat, not eating meat. I don't think they're thinking about in that moment social or cultural or anything. I think when they say, I don't know how people go vegan, the first thing that comes to their head is, I don't know how they don't eat meat. The act of eating the meat. I don't know how they give that up. I think
Yeah.
that, so I still do think that the physical eating of it, the addiction to putting in your mouth, whether it's because the spiritual and the physical addiction that comes from that, the addiction is the root of, it's the main thing. I think everything else is easier to break down
Mm.
than that. What I notice is that once you show someone the truth, once you eat, I've had friends who I showed Dominion to. I had a friend who I showed like a couple weeks ago, and it was me, my other vegan friend who went vegan the past month, and him. We were watching it together. Me and the friend who were vegan were like, well, like saying this was awful, talking like countering all his points. He was the cognitive dissonance he was having. He didn't go vegan after, which kind of made me mad because I'm like, how could you see that and not go vegan? But I have a better understanding now is that because of the addictions there, people, the addiction, the demon is making them, even though they see it, the demon's still there, it can't do it. But what it does then is they can no longer enjoy the addiction in peace. Every time
Mm.
they indulge in the addiction,
Facts.
they have cognitive dissonance and it's uncomfortable every time. Every single time they eat meat, once they're exposed to the truth, is uncomfortable. So even while they're engaging in the addiction, they can't be at peace and just savor the enjoyment of it anymore. And what I've seen is that over time, it doesn't even take that long. Once you fully expose to them the truth of the suffering that the demonic nature of it, they they go vegan on their own eventually, just naturally, because they're at a state of cognitive dissonance and unpeacefulness that will
Yeah.
never go away every time they eat.
And so
So
they're
that
thinking
friend
about it.
last time, that friend now that I showed it to, he said to me and my friend the other day, he was like, just I don't know, we haven't really talked about it since then. He's like, I want to go to that restaurant that you guys went to, and I want to get one of those Impossible burgers that you guys got last time when I at that restaurant. And he would never, no one who's anti-vegan or against vegan would ever say, I want to go try a vegan burger. Only someone who wants to go vegan would say that. So even though in the moment he saw Dominion, the demon was like, no, I'm still eating meat. He was never able to eat it peacefully again. And now to relieve himself of the discomfort, he has to go vegan. All right. So the key is getting the truth of the suffering out there. And if someone's empathetic, they will go vegan, I think,
Yeah.
even with the addiction.
It's the ignorance is the biggest thing, right? And that's why it's so I'm so confident and so optimistic with the vegan movement is because it's the truth, right? And so it's just it's like all I have to do is point people towards the truth, point people towards looking instead of saying, "Hey, don't look." I say, just keep looking, just seek, just think about the topic, and it will come out. So I don't know why they botched this, but. Why escaping this matters? Across 2,500 years, the wisest men have reached the same conclusion. Pythagoras, as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. Leonardo da Vinci, the time will come when men will look upon the murder of animals as they now look upon the murder of men. If we were gonna put if I had to choose a human versus an animal, I'd be like, okay, I would choose a human. If I had to kill one another, but I don't look upon the murder much different, right? Unnecessary murder is unnecessary murder. It is. And does an animal have less of a desire to live? Do they have less of a right to live? Says who, right? It even says in the Bible, it says the animal like do not separate yourself. I forgot the exact words, but basically says the animals have the exact same breath, the same breath of life you do. Um, and so there that also in Christianity, it's been so botched to think that humans are some sort of dominating, oppressing. We're supposed to oppress and dominate nature, and everything is here for us and us only, right? It's like we're the stewarders. It's the opposite. We're meant to,
I think God wants us to do that. Wants us
it's
to slaughter these beings that have souls and feel. And they're here in these living bodies for us to slaughter and kill because we like the way they taste.
right because and
That's
then that
what God created.
what the benevolence in that is so brutal. Okay, and then we have Mahatma Gandhi. The greatest of nations can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Next, we have Leo Tolstoy. A righteous life's first act of is absence from injury to animals. He has another one good, which is as long as there's slaughterhouses, there will be battlefields. Next, we have the Buddha. Dude, the Buddha goes nuts on this, on animal consumption. But anyways, all beings tremble before violence, all fear death, all love life. Seeing oneself and others, one should neither kill nor cause to kill. Seeing oneself and others, that's the thing, is like realizing, hey, you have consciousness like me, right? Essentially, I am trading my momentary pleasure for your heavily outweighed pain, suffering, and life, right? And this is why these guys are all coming to the same conclusion, is because that when you think that way, you that's how you go throughout life. You think me and my pleasure is worth more than the outside suffering. And you stay in that mode, you stay in that separate mode. It's hard to think from source consciousness, from collective consciousness, and we will continually justify more and more harm because we can't embody the golden rule. It's like, okay, it's like subconsciously, it's like, okay, well, I'm not 3 times a day, every day, I'm not embodying the golden rule. So I guess it's just not one of my values, right? It's like, and it's not even like a conscious level. It's like it's a subconscious thing, which is why it doesn't seem like, okay, wait, why are all these guys coming to the same conclusion of how massively it affects things? It's because it happens at a subconscious level, a spiritual level. Nothing will benefit human health and increase the chances for survival of life on Earth as much as the evolution to a vegetarian diet. Facts, right? That's why I'm so passionate about this stuff, and why I hope you guys find some passion of, not, you don't just have to speak, don't have to do what I'm doing on Instagram whatsoever, but just passionate about being a billboard, being representation. And you help one person find the path. Not only are they liberated from the matrix, but hundreds of animals are saved yearly, on average. Last one, Jesus and the Gospel of Ebionites. Gospel of Ebionites is insane. And it actually, I didn't put it in here because I'm gonna make this into a carousel post eventually on Instagram. But I said, and I don't want too much controversy. In the Gospel of Ebionites, Jesus says, "I have come to abolish animal sacrifice. For if you cease not from sacrificing, wrath will not cease from you." Um, and just basically, all these guys come to the same conclusion, right? All these guys come to the same conclusion. And that is the spiritual roots of veganism. And that is what I think needs to penetrate the world. And like, at least what I think it needs to be at the root of it is the oneness and the idea that, hey, we share this space with the animals. They have the cloth of consciousness we do, in different ways. And when we separate ourselves like that and turn these beings into products, we innately create separation between all us and all living things here on Earth, right? And so it's big, guys. It's massive. How to escape it? This is more for people who are still in it. Is realize you're in it when you're under the influence of animal consumption. You are in the matrix. It works because you can't see it from the inside. Knowing it exists is what lets you take step two. I'm still trying to figure out like how people escape in general, but it's like this is a big one. Is a, hey, wait, I'm thinking illogical things right now. Like being able to make that conclusion, because when you have an addictive mind, your addictive mind will still tell yourself things. Like it almost won't let you go towards the path of escaping. So you have to be like, wait, I am thinking illogical things and I am addicted, right? And then once you acknowledge you have an addiction, you're able to actually take steps. Hey, I'm not going to listen to my desires right now, my mind. I'm going to actually realize I have to beat this addiction. Next is looking in his eyes. We keep the matrix mentally distant. The only way to escape it is to see it with your own eyes. Got these documentaries here. If you guys haven't watched these, watch all of them. It's very important that you guys watch these, right? Beckham, I don't know if you've watched all of these, but in a conversation, when you're talking to someone, you having these at your disposal to recommend, and also just knowing the information on all of them is very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Four color knives, I'd add to that too, because that adds a really like unique.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
perspective.
that's also just like a social thing I'm trying to practice, and because especially at school, right? You got all these people your age, young teenagers. They try to bully you. I face that all the time, and then I try to fight back at it. But knowing how Joey was explaining how many of the plant based people that actually can speak well, and just you gotta connect. You gotta see it from their lens, but also you just gotta be calm, grounded. Also, just share your knowledge and try and make them understand, and just yeah, not trying to attack them. So
Yeah.
that's what I've learned lately. So um, it definitely helps. So and you're able to stay in the conversation for longer, and then yeah, you can express your ideas a lot better, and you can understand their lens a lot better. Um, so yeah, I appreciate all that, Joey. I like how you say. Um, I remember one of the videos you did about veganism. It's some of it's gone to the wrong place as well. There's a lot of people that take it wrong. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up too. So it helps us to spread the information in a proper and well mannered way. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
bro. And even if you have we have to be careful is you're gonna have the urge, or you're passionate about it, you're talking to someone to like attack them when they're
Yeah.
contradicting to so much. Like when they're saying that it's like that they're not accepting the obvious truth because you know that they have an addiction that they
Oh
would rather
yeah.
in instead
Yeah.
of give it up for
Yeah.
the good of you know to end the suffering
Yeah.
of the innocent beings. It's hard, but attacking them never works.
No, it
Never
doesn't.
works.
Absolutely.
All you
I
can,
think
even though
that's
it's tempting, all you can do is simply reveal the truth. So when you're doing it, isolate the action, right?
yeah.
Separate them from it. Never say you're fucked up. You're fucked up. Even when I showed Dominion to my friend, and he was like, "Fuck that! I'm still eating meat. Fuck that." You know how hard it was for me not to kick him out of my house. Like when we're watching this, and like it's like
Yeah.
I have to like turn it off. I was about to get emotional. Like the part where they were like lassoing
Yeah.
cows at the rodeo, and humans were cheering as they were like breaking cows' necks and breaking their legs, and like,
Yeah.
and it's like I had to be refrain from that. And that was the guy now who, because since then I didn't judge. I just showed him love. I showed exposed the truth. I just showed him love. They hang out. He'd have his meat. I have my thing. Maybe I'd say one thing. I was like, bro, like you gotta eat meat, bro. Like that's gross. And then I would just change the
Yeah.
conversation. Just a little like I just throw it in, and then change the
Yeah.
conversation. And then still treat him with love, have a good time as friends. Is that
Yeah.
my other friend said that I was able to do that and just be an example of someone who is healthy and strong and just like I was doing everything as them. We have go to a barbecue. I bring my vegan stuff. They would all eat meat. We all have a good time. But like I'm an
Oh
example of
yeah.
hey, we can still have fun and be vegan, right? So that's why really you got to the two things are be an example of a man that they want to be, that they look up to, because they're going to try to bully you. If you're not big and strong and you're in the gym, you're like, oh yeah, I'm vegan. And you're like, oh yeah, look at him, he's not big. It's because he's vegan. That's why, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
When it comes to everything, that's why you got to know how to fight. You got to look good, right? Eventually getting a girl, right? If that's in your path, right? Having like a quality woman,
Yeah.
right? All things that men respect, is important if you're going to be an example of the message. All right, so be an example
Absolutely.
and then expose the truth. Don't attack people. That's the best way to make individuals go vegan in your life by far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the that's a good point. So that was what Mike was explaining number one and number two there, which is embody veganism. This is like the being unshakable, guys, which is why doing the method is so important. It's just being unshakable as a human being. Like that is gonna like, having the physique, having the mind, heart, and soul, just all of it is just your walking billboard. And so when you say you're vegan, people's construct of veganism, which is being weak and effeminate, instantly changes, right?
Yeah.
And so that's number one. Number two is gonna be educate yourself. Watch every documentary listed above and keep learning, right? Like in a debate, it's impossible for me to lose now. Just because I'm so equipped with the facts, I'm so equipped with the reality of
Oh
it.
yeah.
Um, and I could say it with such confidence to where it's like, if someone says felt a health fact, I can say where that went wrong, like where the illogic came from, etc. All of it, environment, whatever it is. So educate yourself, watch the documentaries, and then speak to help. The energy behind your tone weighs far more than words. Come to help, never to condemn. Always imagine you're fighting the matrix, not the person. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and put yourself in the animal's shoes, which keeps your ego out of it. Because if your identity is ever in the mix and they feel like you are trying to get the upper ground on them because you're vegan, like the moral upper ground, and like feel like you're better than them, they'll sniff it. They're looking for anything they could sniff to justify. So Speak to help, and
Yeah.
then, as Mike said, and I like this phrasing at the end, which is that you're not at war with the person, but with the matrix. Attack their identity, they'll dig deeper. Don't cast them out as immoral. Show them they're a good person who was sold a moral acts, like not even doing a moral acts. I mean, eventually, if you know, if it gets far enough, but I think the first thing is, hey, you were sold a moral acts, right?
Yeah.
You were led into these immoral acts instead of you're doing these immoral acts, right?
Yeah.
And so that makes it for someone to be like a lot more like, hey, it's I have a chance to escape instead of I am the thing. It's like, oh wait, I'm separate from the act, right? I'm separate from these awful things I've been doing. Right in the moment, I can either go towards them and keep doing them, or I can move away instead of, oh, looks like I'm just a piece of shit, and I'm already doing that, so I'm gonna embody that. And they'll
Yeah.
just people will find any reason to push away vegans and want to or the vegan message and just ignore it and push it away. So make sure they feel overall welcomed. And I know on my Instagram, I'll speak. It's content is a lot different. Content is a lot different. But in person, almost always compassion is going to be the best route and planting seeds. Um, so yeah, then I'll have more modules on content creation, maybe even presentation, coming up sometime. So, yeah, let's keep on moving. All right, how we beat it. Although the matrix seems too large to be beaten, its purpose is to hide the truth. That's innately what, a matrix is. And the truth always prevails. We are in a war against the spirit of flesh consumption, vegans and non-vegans alike. We will continue to come together around the truth, exposing evil and building an abundant, united world. It's not as far as it seems, right? The truth starts to become more like I wouldn't see these masculine strong dudes on my Instagram, and not partly because I wasn't in the algorithm, but partly because it didn't really exist not too long ago. It's becoming more and more frequent. We're seeing people waking up and these young people with platforms who want to speak about it have the passion to speak about it. And we have ways like never before to where I can go on Instagram and just expose all the bullshit because I have access to the internet, all this stuff. I can look into this and just expose this shit, and tens of thousands of people that can see it, and other people are going to be doing the same thing and are doing the same thing in different ways. And so truth is going to continue to come out because ignorance can only hold for so long. That's that. Okay, beautiful. So, any questions on or comments on this, guys?
Great presentation, bro.
Thank you.
That was really good. Uh, I did have a thought about the major influence out of the six. I was actually kind of surprised that no one said government.
Mm,
When certain keywords were used, like psyops, you said this is all by design. When you're talking about the cultural, physical, oh man, I mean physical, but definitely cognitive influence. Like I just think of the whole time you guys were talking about it, I thought about these two words, right? Got milk.
yeah, right.
Who came up with that? That wasn't me or you. That wasn't my spirit. It wasn't your spirit. That was the government's ploy to try to get you to consume more milk. All these things. Oh, well, meat's actually good for you and milk's good for your bones. And they tell you all these things about consuming flesh and animal products, but that's coming from the top and it goes down. That influences a lot of your other forces, right?
For
Your
sure.
social, everyone's going to school and you're like, oh yeah, we're drinking milk because milk's good for your bones. Milk's actually terrible for your bones. But you have a whole school of people, whole school of children who are doing it because the adults are telling them that. They watch it on TV. The parents are telling them that because they were taught that, because they were taught that. You have a whole society that believes from the top down that yes, milk is good for you. Eating meat's good for you. So the government influences all this other stuff. And I'm pretty sure that's all by design, right? They
For
all
sure.
want you to believe these things because they want to keep you from a spiritual awakening. They want to keep you from living your best life because the money that they generate from you comes from you being ill, not from you being healthy, not from you being spiritually aware. They get money from you being sick. You do what they say. You consume the flesh. You're perpetually, like you said, cardiovascular illnesses are directly related to meat consumption. That's how big pharma makes their money. So to me personally, I feel like the government, I mean, I feel like the government's the devil anyway, but that
Yeah.
just, it kind of just speaks to it. Like the government is responsible for all this stuff. So the most influential of those forces that kind of influences the other forces
Yeah.
is the government.
There's
Damn. Best
yeah.
Stefan so far.
Yeah, facts. Best
Mic drop.
best mic
There, bro.
drop. The
Build the
government
engine.
Yeah, the government is basically the puppeteers of making sure that we're spiritually blind, that culture pushes it on us, that the physical addiction is prevalent. So there's meat everywhere available for everyone to get it. And even the more adrenochrome in the factory farming, making sure that we like I said here that we don't see the stuff that's coming so that the truth doesn't get out. That's really what government is especially responsible for, making sure the truth doesn't get out, um, to where we can start to shed ignorance. So that is a good point. It's so interesting because, and I'm so excited. Yeah, exactly. It's the matrix is so it's a matrix.
Multi-layered.
It's multi-layered and it's perfectly designed to get people to do just when you're out of it, clearly abhorrent things. But when you're in it, you just can't see. You just can't see. And that's because the Matrix is it's so good. It's so good at what it does. Um, and so, but yeah, Stefan, I think you just found maybe a little content creation path on your or some form of public
That was
speaking
crazy.
path.
Like that's gotta go on social media for sure. Like you said that, the way you did that, like I never even seen you speak like that, bro. That was crazy.
It's good,
Oh
bro.
yeah.
The spirit emanating through you. Cool. Anyone else? I think this is a pretty interesting, a pretty good topic to stay on. If anyone else wants to comment on, one of these aspects, how they feel like it emanates, um, while we're here.
Yeah. What are you guys
Uh,
to say?
I'll go. Backing up with stuff on is with the government, it goes with religion as well. With the documentary,
Yeah.
the Christ series, uh,
Price
that
Boosie.
point was all three religions have a way with blessing the sacrifice. They always have to do a prayer to forgive what they're doing. If it was natural, you wouldn't have to pray. You don't pray over picking a fruit. You don't pray over picking a vegetable and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, God, that I picked a fruit." It's only when you're sacrificing something that is sentient and actually feels pain. Because if I cut myself while I'm cutting an animal, we're both going to feel the pain. It's not the same as picking a fruit where it's actually a giving from nature, from the creator to actually give you. It always wants to give you fruit. And when you don't pick the fruit, what does it do? Drops to the ground and creates again. It
Feeds a
provides
tree.
nutrients to yeah, it feeds the tree. And then the seeds either get picked up by birds and spread around to grow again. It's like that is the full circle of uh,
Abundance.
abundance, where it's a full circle. Is there's no loss and there's no gain. It's if the fruit dies, the tree dies. It's gonna grow again because the seed got moved around, or a nut, a plant, a vegetable will spread open. A bird will send the seeds in its digestive tract and plant it in another location.
Yeah.
Fruits and vegetables are always recycling, but an animal,
Fruits
we
are.
always have to grow it, produce it, kill it, and then do it all over again. It doesn't just happen, every year. It's not like we have, steak once a year because, oh, it's the cycle of the animal, where it's like cheese, for example. There's so many different types of cheeses, but I looked at it, I said, shouldn't cheese be very rare like wine, where it happens once a year because an animal can only give birth once a year? Cheese and all those things should be more expensive than anything, but we have so abundance of it that it gets sickening. Like going to a supermarket and seeing all of that, I went and said, why? Why do we have four different types of cheeses, like Mexican and mozzarella and all this other shit that doesn't help? There's no point of it. We have excess of everything, of all these different meats and cuts and cheeses and milks, but there's not four different types of apples. It's only red delicious, green apples. They select the fruits that they want to give you, but they'll give you 20 options of different types of cuts of meat. I don't see where the government pushes it and religion pushes it as a backing. With religion itself will always push the narrative of you have to have meat. It's perfectly right, kosher, this, you know, this is organic meat. That's the most ridiculous, stupid oxymoron. It can't be organic if you're killing something that doesn't grow by nature.
Mm.
For me, it doesn't fucking make sense anymore. Like, sorry about that, but it's I've come to the point where it's just I can't even smell meat. For me, it smells like when you burn yourself on a hot iron.
Yeah, it
For
smells
me, it
gross.
does not, it smells gross now. Without a doubt, like I'll smell barbecue in the neighborhood and before I'd be like, oh, that smells nice. Now it smells like burnt flesh and garbage.
Yeah.
And I like, it's only more and more realized where I, I have friends who eat meat and they have a stench. Like it's a weird thing. Now I can smell people who eat meat.
So can animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And now it's like we have to like season and put all this stuff on it. We're not naturally like just raw chicken, like these like primal bros, like they eat the raw chicken and meat. I even think that they even admit that like it doesn't taste good. They do it just because it's so healthy. It's like so
So
optimal and healthy.
primal.
Yeah, it's so primal and healthy. Like they all the nutrients are all from the best being raw. And even though it tastes gross, like raw meat tastes gross. And I used to be the guys, I would have a pound of raw ground beef
With
and I put
eggs.
2 eggs on it and mixed it all up and eat it. Like it was disgusting. It's disgusting. And I was doing that because I was so indoctrinated by these primal bros. Thanks, Paul Saladino. Um, but and another thing too is that whenever like you're tripping, and tripping makes you more into your soul, right? Like, less into these like your social conditioning. I have friends, even friends who aren't vegan. I have a friend literally tell me the other day, he was like, when we were tripping, he was like, yeah, like, I don't know why. I didn't even bring it up. He was like, I don't know why. Like, actually, we weren't tripping. We were talking about tripping. He said, when I'm tripping, I just feel like, we went to a restaurant, my friend, we ate chicken, and I just couldn't eat the chicken. I just didn't put it in my mouth. I was just like, no, I don't want it. And then I left, and like we went to the store, I got some fruit, and I was like, oh, this is really good. And it's like, but then the shrooms come down, and then the addiction comes back, and he's back into his vessel and his ego, that's addicted to the meat. So
Yeah.
it's just so clear that we're not naturally meant to. We don't even like to. We don't even like to. We have to cook it, season it, put sauce on it, like make it not really what it is, and so we can get it down our throats.
And completely separate ourselves from actually all that happens before, which is the killing, processing, skinning, all of that.
Yeah.
And then Fritz, like you said, it's like it doesn't like it frustrates you or it doesn't make sense anymore. It's like that's why I want to talk about this topic. That's why I want to explain the matrix is because it does make sense when you look at it at the matrix level, right? It makes sense that now being out of it that we're like it's so obvious, but we forget that we were in the matrix and that the matrix exists. Um, and it helps calm me. It all helps keeps me level when speaking to people because it takes the ego out of it and more like you're working with the person to expose the matrix. So amazing. Um, anyone else want to hit any of these?
I got one quick thing.
Go ahead, Ryder. You're muted, brother.
Um, I just think it's like just kind of speaking on to what you were saying, how, you're kind of in the right no matter what side of the argument you come from. And just look or watching different people do these types of debates on YouTube, it's like you don't even have to be spiritual. You don't even have to be religious.
Yeah,
You can just come to them logically, like, hey, you're a human being that obviously doesn't want to do anything unnecessary, like cause harm to other innocent beings. So, like, why, why are you still participating? And it's like just the most simple. You don't have to believe anything. You don't have to adhere to some, like precepts or anything like that. It's just the most logical thing to boil down to that should be the most like agreeable thing ever.
yeah. It's a great. It's like Mike said. people will like get to the end of the debate and then but the physical addiction will be challenged. And so,
Yeah.
that's what has to be gotten over. And that's why if
Mhm.
you're more in your soul than your material fleshly desires, your soul, if your soul is driving, then your soul's like, hey, doesn't matter about the flesh addiction. No feeling of gratification or pleasure outweighs going against my spiritual truth. And
Yeah.
so that's why it's like, go ahead, Mike.
I think, like you said, the end is the flesh addiction. That has to be overcome. What I think that what overcomes it is just the truth of like of the suffering of what it and like they have to actually visually see what the suffering is because that's what
Hmm.
empathy. You can talk about, I mean, like, even we knew that like animals died, like, all these animals got chopped up, and now it's like oh like okay that's it's a humane death, like I didn't really like think about it, but when you actually see it, that then you can never enjoy meat again in peace, like I said earlier. So it's
No.
like the key to overcome the addiction, you have to make the addiction uncomfortable to partake in, and that is through showing them the images of the suffering, of the demonic images of what is actually happening. Well, Ryder, we say debate. You said you're watching debates on YouTube. Are you watching Earthling Ed?
Yes.
So Earthling Ed, guys, that was the how I became vegan. Somehow an Earthling Ed video came up on my Earthling Ed is the name of the YouTube channel. He just goes on college campuses. He's like this like skinny, kind of like Jesus. He kind of looks like Jesus, kind of. He's like he's like skinny, not very masculine looking, but he's such a good debater, and he's perfect at it. But if you guys want to, he's not bringing it up, is he's what turned me vegan. So watch one of his videos and then it sent me down the rabbit hole. If you want to get good at debating people in your life when they ask you, when you're openly vegan, they ask you about it and they bring up objections, just spam watch his debates because it's just a person sits down who's like who does and they just you just see someone who's in the matrix try to justify it to him. And so I would just watch like dozens of his videos and my brain just got ingrained with oh every time someone says that he says this which totally destroys that argument. Every time someone says this he says this. Every time someone says this he says this. And through watching that just that was pretty much all I did to be able to easily argue and destroy any of the main points that anyone in your life will bring up when it comes to veganism. Now, obviously, you got to do your own research too, do like stats and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
The debate to the actual debate structure and the debate.
yeah, Earth Mode is a great way to if you feel like it's hard to do, watch him. He's great at it.
Yeah.
Oh, especially with his discussions, is it sounds like he's talking to an NPC. Like he'll say something, and then I'm already like, oh, I already know what they're gonna talk, but this and this and so, and
Yeah.
he already
It's
knows the response to it.
it's interesting because there's sometimes highly intelligent people and the ones who are like super super intelligent they'll end up being like fuck like you're right. Um but that being said, I want to anyone have anything else left to say on this one before we continue? All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and just go into Mike, do you have wins of the week?